Hello, 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 hello.
Hello.
What's up? What's up? What's
Greetings.
up? What's up? All right. So today we got a special guest, and we do not want to waste time. So we got Ethan from Wheelsboy with us today, and of course, our host Eric and Mr. P myself TIY. Let's give it a couple of minutes checking some sounds and video and audio. For those who join our podcast already, do comments if you hear us okay, and if you can see us all okay. It's been a while because we skipped it like 2 weeks, right? Chinese New Year was a long one, so happy belated Chinese New Year to you all.
Yeah.
Hope you all got a good one, man.
We've all changed quite a bit in the last 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
I got this
You can see
beard
all
now.
You can see all of this. I don't know what's up with you, Eric. It's like the
Got the-
weather in Thailand keeps you
Yeah.
like I gonna have some beard and
It's getting
some
whiter and whiter. I don't know what's going on. Getting
Oh,
It's
older
called
fast.
distinguished. You look distinguished.
You look good, Eric.
Oh, I appreciate that, but I don't trust you guys.
You can trust me. I'm an outside observer. I can
Yeah,
see
there you
your
go. There you
co-host might mess with you, but I'm a neutral observer. I think it looks good, and I'm also intensely jealous because whenever I try and grow a beard, it doesn't go well.
right. I tried
Well,
to,
you're
man.
still young.
Couldn't get it out. I don't know. Oh, okay. We got Panyawat. Hi, Piting. Hi, everyone. Congratulations on your Apple Vision Pro. Oh yes, I was trying to. I wanted to join the podcast with my persona, but maybe I could try later. Yeah. You guys can see my persona later. Yep. Hope you can hear us okay, Panyawat.
So
Nice
you picked
picture.
it up while you were in America.
Yeah. When I was in the US,
Was it
Plus,
easy to get? Did
it's
you get a
only sold in
pre-order
the
or-
US, right?
Right. Did you have to get a pre-order or just went to this Apple store
No.
and picked it up?
The city I went was like I was in Columbus in Ohio, and I don't think that a lot of people was kind of nerdy, like too much geeky stuff over there. So a lot of stock there, I think.
In Columbus,
Like,
Ohio.
Columbus not known for having a ton of tech early adopters, and for being
Maybe
honest.
I think.
I think Eric can back me up.
I have no
Right?
idea. I've never been to Columbus.
It's
That's called
wonderful.
flyover country for a reason, right?
I mean,
It's
it's kind of really academic city, yeah. It's like a lot of knowledgeable people out there, but not so much to like really tech, geeks, some kind of stuff. I think it's like based on my few days observation there.
Did you go see the Columbus Blue Jackets?
Oh, I went to see a hockey game, but
Yeah, that's them, right?
it's-
The Columbus Blue Jackets.
no, but it's a
The hockey-
college. It's a college team. It's not the it's not the NHL. No, so it was fun though. It was first time in the stadium and get to see. I tell you, the sport events in the US, it's like a show. It's like you see it's not just like a competition. It's like you can see like halftime. They got something. They got
some
activities.
cheerleaders for you.
It's like you enjoy them. It's like a sort of like pure entertainment. It's not only like sport and competition and so it's good. I will visit again. So it's all right. So we got Peter. Hi Peter. It's been a while.
Welcome back, Peter.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
We also
Oh, with Mr. Crew Boy from Germany. Ooh,
got. I hope you're not driving. Are you literally driving right now? Because please don't be.
I hope he's
Oh,
just
if
on
you are
audio.
driving, oh goodness. And autobahn is like a no speed limit. Drive safely,
Supposedly, yeah.
Mr. Crew Boy.
Congrats on the car. I haven't seen you in the app. I don't think in the NIO app. Maybe I have. You probably have a different name.
Definitely.
Probably not Cruel Boy in the NIO app, right? Let's check.
Okay, 1st March, the Kia EV9 launched in Thailand. Yes, that's right. I got the invitation, but I'll be in China then, so I couldn't participate. But be sure to check out all the media outlets in Thailand. They should have good coverage.
It's gonna be
Speaking
Bangkok.
as someone, Yeah. Speaking as someone who drove the EV6 GT last year and thought it was fantastic, even if it has
Right.
zero chance in the Chinese market, I'm really excited for the EV9, and I really hope they do some kind of event that I can get invited to as domestic media for my Chinese language channels and try it, because I bet it's going to be really good.
Ah, that's nice. That's nice. You drove it in China, right? EV6.
EV6 GT, yeah, we borrowed it from Kia, and it was a really interesting experience because it's one of the best driving EVs, as in sporty driving dynamics, that I've ever experienced. Um, but it was also such a strange car because it costs as much as a NIO ET7 here in China, but it has manually adjusted seats.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, and listen, there's some people that don't care about that. They care about steering feel and chassis dynamics, and I'm personally one of those people. But there are not as many people like me as there are people that would just enjoy being in a really nice ET7 that's very comfortable and fast.
Hmm. Talking about ET7, maybe Mr. P can let us know a little bit about the 24 ET7. There's a new lineup for this year model, right?
Yeah. So they just announced on the NIO app that the 2024 variants of NIOs are here. They're going to be delivered in March, most of them, except for the ET7, which is like later on. And so the biggest change is, of course, 8295 chip. Like that's on every single vehicle model now. And then some other minor changes for some other vehicles. For example, the ES8 gets a few pillows, and then there's apparently a new table that you can buy on the store. And then the ES7 actually saw a couple more changes, which were quite necessary in my opinion. They got the bigger heads-up display that the ES8 and the EC7 has, and also they switched to the self-developed seats to make it more comfortable. And then also they had added 4 extra pillows, standard. And then rear seat heating, standard as well, and added inbox entertainment system. And also for EC7, no big change, just added the 4 pillows. And then ES6 and the EC6, 2024 version is just the chip change, nothing else. They said there's some software update, but that's also coming for all ES6s and EC6s as well. And then for the ET7, actually, they've not released any information on that yet. They're going to release it later on. So there's probably going to be more changes for the ET7. So that's a stay tuned for more info kind of situation. So that's pretty much it. So I kind of want to know, Ethan, what's your opinion on like 8295? Is it a huge leap forward compared to 8155? And do you think these changes are like really big?
So I would say these definitely qualify for me as being kind of annual updates rather than mid-cycle refresh or obviously new generation kind of changes. And in terms of the 8295 chip, I believe, I'm trying to think if I've actually experienced it in any of the vehicles that I've driven as of yet. I drive a lot of them, so it's easy to forget. I will say this much. There was a period in which the 8155, the Snapdragon, was the bee's knees, and any car that had it was a huge headline. And then it became such that I don't even mention it in reviews anymore because everybody from 150,000 RMB entry level electric sedans to high level vehicles have it. Now the 8295 is here. I do know a vehicle, the Xpeng X9 MPV that I drove last year was the first one that I drove that had the 8295 chip. And all I can tell you is from a user experience perspective, it was wickedly fast and it just kind of enhanced the overall positive experience that I'd always had with Xpeng systems. I've always liked the NIO UI. If the 8295 just makes it snappier, I can see no reason that I would complain about that.
So a quick follow-up question. Did you manage to test drive the Zeekr 007? Because that
That's a
has the
great question.
8295 as well.
Yes, it does. We have not been able to get our hands on a 007 yet. There aren't a great many test cars in Shanghai at this point. My expectation is that we'll be able to get our hands on one. One never knows. I'm optimistically probably this coming month in March. More conservatively, maybe the beginning of April. But we're definitely going to be taking that for a drive. I'm really excited to drive that car. It just the pricing alone on it. I remember I was actually riding with a coworker of mine back from a meeting in another Chinese city here in China, and we were listening to the press conference, and it was over and over just jaw dropping, like all the specs on it, and then they announced the price, and we were like, oh no, this is
Oh no,
this
yeah,
is
exactly.
the people at, you know who, it's one of those things, the people at Xiaomi with the SU7, I guarantee you that they were watching that press conference and just ripping their hair out because they're like, oh, we're never going to be able to sell our car for the price we wanted to. But that's been the cycle for the last year or so here in China, so they should be used to it by now.
Yeah, it's extremely competitive, uh and like you said, it's like everybody's undercutting each other with better specs and cheaper price. And one thing that we've noticed is NIO doesn't do price cuts. Like they're just not doing price cuts. Even the 2024 variants have the same exact starting price. What's your opinion on this? Do you think that right now to survive, it's important to do price cuts, or do you think it's just for a company like NIO, it's just absolutely unnecessary?
I apologize. I got slightly distracted. Ting popping in, and now Ting looking very strangely angelic a little bit.
I think he looks like the Monkey King.
This
I
is
Is
this
that,
is
is that the Vision Pro?
I just went to have some makeup.
Makeup?
give me a minute. I just realized that it's just your persona.
Yeah. But yeah, we still can continue.
I know. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I swear
Can
I'll
we-
bring myself under
Wow.
control. But that was special. So the question is price cuts. So we're obviously in an ongoing price war here in the Chinese car market. This is undeniable. Tesla started it. Everyone else followed. It was my understanding that NIO had been doing price cuts, but I trust that you guys follow them a lot more closely than I do. If the question is, should they be doing price cuts? The answer is, I think inevitably yes. Unfortunately, it's always tougher. It's one thing for, let's take an example of IM, who's backed by SAIC. Now, if IM wants to do price cuts, or an even more dramatic example from the same mother company, SAIC, is Rising Auto. They've cut prices on their F7 sedan and their R7 SUV by incredible amounts. And they can do that and afford to do that because they have a huge company behind them that can absorb the financial blow. It's obviously a different calculation for a much smaller company like NIO, like Xpeng, even Li Auto, as well as they're doing, to make price cuts. But I do think that the harsh reality is that NIO is going to have to, in order to continue to stimulate sales, I do expect them to have to make price cuts at some point here, probably soon.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, just one more follow-up question. So right now, I'm pretty sure you're aware of what's happening with Hi-Fi. Factory closure for 6 months. So just today, all right, their live stream, the guys on live stream were begging their viewers to support the company, and kind of a very difficult predicament, a very difficult situation, people being laid off, and after the secondhand prices of Hi-Fi just collapsing as well, dealers closing everywhere. It's just terrible. In your opinion, did you expect something like this to possibly happen to Hi-Fi, having driven Hi-Fi's cars, and what's your opinion on that?
So there's two parts to that. There's, did I expect Hi-Fi to go under or have difficulties, and do I think it's related to their cars? That's how I'd interpret that. And the first one was, I think I always had doubts about Hi-Fi, and it was simply because their market positioning is extremely unique and has been unique since the beginning. And the reason it's unique is because they're darned expensive cars. You know, the Hi-Fi X, when it debuted, was a 570 or 600,000 to 880,000 or something RMB car, and a Chinese car, to be more frank. And that was something that was very unique, and it remains pretty unique in the marketplace, is that 500 to 1 million RMB price range for a Chinese electric brand, well, Chinese brand of any kind. Obviously, there's brands like NIO that leap up into that range, but not all of their models are there. Obviously, Hi-Fi, they wanted to save themselves. They're kind of, the car that should have saved them was the Hi-Fi Y. They're kind of more as mainstream as Hi-Fi can get, SUV. But I think that it's just not worked out that way. Now, I expected them to have difficulty because of their market positioning, but in terms of having driven their cars, I love Hi-Fis. I've loved Hi-Fis since the first time I drove the X. I remember thinking when I saw it at the Shanghai Auto Show in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, there's no way this will work. I mean, this is cool, but this is a gimmick on gimmick on gimmick on gimmick on gimmick, and there's no way that in the real world this will work together. And then it did. The doors worked, even though they're out of their world. The huge screens worked, and it actually drove pretty well. Then I drove the Hi-Fi Z, and it was, to this day, the best driving or sportiest driving Chinese car I have ever experienced. I mean, apart from like the NIO EP.09, which I don't count because it's not production, but that it is one of the best steering and best handling Chinese electric vehicles, probably the best that I ever experienced. And then I drove the Y, and I thought, oh, this could do it. This could bring them into the more mainstream. But it just didn't happen. Whether it was the marketing, whether it was the positioning, for whatever, or just people, there was the whiff of death about them so early on that people weren't willing to put their money where their mouth is. And so I, for one, am very sad to see Hi-Fi in the position that it's in. And I personally, to all of the wonderful Hi-Fi PR people that I worked with over the last couple of years, hang in there. It's going to work out. You're talented. You'll end up somewhere else. Don't worry.
But they went to the Europe, right? I know that they already start like doing some marketing, and they also have some cars for reviewer in Europe. I think in Norway also. Maybe Tesla Beyond has tried the
Car
Too
Wow.
little, too late.
the Car
Yeah.
Wow as well. Yeah.
They got the Hi-Fi Z. I'll tell you, as a guy whose niche is getting early access to Chinese market vehicles, watching the distance between when the big foreign media get the car and when I get the car do this is a little nerve-wracking. But I saw Car Wow had a Hi-Fi Z. I think that, Eric, you're absolutely right. It's a too little, too late thing. I don't think that they ever had any kind of meaningful sales in Europe, as so many Chinese companies do. They are in Europe, which means they're in Norway and they're selling a dozen a month or something like that. And everyone's got to start somewhere. And if you've got the time to build, as NIO did, as BYD did, as Xpeng is doing, then it can become something very real. But if you don't have the time to nurture that, then it doesn't mean much.
They said they stopped the production for 6 months, right? Until the stock run out or whatever. But they haven't said like indefinitely shut down the factory or something like that, is it?
Well, they're shutting down the factory for 6 months, and then what happens after 6 months, we don't know. Maybe they're gonna resume it. Maybe they won't resume it. So that's a question.
And didn't they stop paying staff supposedly?
Yeah, they
50%.
stopped paying staff.
Yeah, there was the announcement. I think last time I heard was like 50% pay cuts for most people, or if they were on 50% salary. But we'll see. I mean, hey, listen, look at Hongqi, the Evergrande. They managed to limp along for so much longer than anybody thought they could, and Hi-Fi's got a lot more going for them than Hongqi did.
Didn't you drive one of those Evergrande cars, Ethan?
Yes, sir. The Hongqi 5.
Was they one of 100 built or something ridiculous?
900, I think. 900. I think it was 900 of them that they managed to get out the factory door, maybe less. People can go. I encourage people to go check out the video, not just because I love the views, but because I think it's a genuinely interesting story. But I would just say that my conclusion from that video was the Hongqi 5 is not a good car, but it's not a bad enough car to justify the reputation that it received. It was essentially tainted by the company behind it, to the point where automotive media when they were talking about the Hongqi 5, they were really talking about Evergrande, the real estate company that had left many, many, many thousands of people without homes and without a lot of money that they'd given Evergrande. So you can understand the angst.
I don't think we've properly actually introduced Ethan yet. We just kind of jumped into this podcast, right? So we should probably introduce Ethan. You are the host of Wheelsboy, the channel. I'm sure probably all of our viewers know this channel. It's probably the biggest. Is it the biggest English language auto reviewer YouTube channel in China?
I think that's accurate.
I think so too. So I'm a fan. I know Mr. P and Ting are also fans, and probably all of our viewers are already fans of yours. But just in case, go check out Ethan's channel because he drives a lot of really, really interesting Chinese cars.
Thank you very much.
And he's entertaining too. And he dresses nice, kind of like me a little bit, but maybe a little bit nicer.
I tell you what, Eric, I wanted to wear a floral patterned shirt, but my office is so cold, and I didn't dare turn on my air conditioning so loud that it would that it would get into my audio, that I decided to wear a colorful sweater instead.
Well, that's all right. You still look good. Don't worry about it. I do envy some of your shirts and your fanny pack sometimes.
I'll send you links. Don't worry. Anytime.
I think we shop at the same store already.
Probably. No more fanny pack, right? No more fanny pack, right?
This is a point of contention for any number of my fans. I think that every once in a while I go through the comments on a YouTube video, and just when I think people have given up on that, somebody will go, "Hey, where are the fanny packs?" And I genuinely it warms my heart every single time, because it was a choice I made very early on. If you guys want to know the real backstory, I'll give you the very short version, but there's a longer version that essentially on the video we did when we bought our BYD Yuan Plus company car. I kind of explained in detail kind of why, but essentially we started to create content, and it was actually broadcasted on it's like Welt der Wunder, the German TV channel. And so I'm dubbed in German in I believe it's Germany, Austria, and German-speaking parts of Switzerland. So if anybody's over there, check me out. But those guys had only one requirement. They said your videos are high quality, no problem, except Ethan can't wear the fanny packs.
What was their reasoning?
They felt it was, in a very German way, they felt it was, and with great respect to the German listeners, if there are any, they felt it was unbecoming of a professional automotive reviewer to be wearing a fanny pack. So
wow.
my quiet rebellion was fine. Thank you, K.A. Thank you very much. My quiet rebellion was to wear floral pattern shirts in as many videos as I could.
Seems very unprofessional. I hope they put you in a suit next time.
They'll try.
I guess if there's no other question right now from Mr. P, what do you think about NIO's chances in Europe, and I guess Chinese cars in general in Europe? I know you mentioned they might be able to survive selling 10 or 20 a month, as they're just building up a brand. But do you think long-term success is possible for Chinese brands?
That's a great question, and I promise you that I'm going to answer it as thoroughly and passionately as possible. But first, I must acknowledge that Peter Klausner in the comment section made a comment about fanny packs and wanting me to keep sporting my best watches. And this is something I have two passions in life. There's cars and wristwatches. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that comment and say how much I absolutely loved it. And I love when people on my audience recognize that I wear almost a different watch in every video. But returning to the subject at hand, Chinese cars, I think their success in Europe and essentially the global market overall is somewhat of an inevitability. I I think that we, as people based in China who get to drive many of these cars, we see just how high quality the products are because of the incredibly competitive market that's been created here. And so that is a furnace that essentially rather, has created some really, really competitive products and competitive companies. And when they are able to make that transition into places like the European market, I think buyers, whatever hesitancy they may have for whatever reason, once they get into the cars, drive the cars, experience the cars, they're just good and they're high value. And that is, I think, going to be enough to win over almost everybody.
Even the top levels of the market, like even say NIO's position?
There's a great question. I think that is more of a matter of time. You know, we can point to a lot of examples in that case. The most obvious one is when Toyota entered, speaking on behalf of the US market, but when it entered most markets, it was doing so as a highly affordable basic transportation. Whereas, and then say 40 years into it, Lexus appears. And now I think that Lexus is undoubtedly one of the most successful premium brands in the US market. And I don't see any reason that the Chinese couldn't accomplish that task and do so more quickly. Because NIO, for example, I do think that NIO as a premium brand is a compelling option for buyers anywhere, as long as they're able to build up the kind of network and support and legitimacy, essentially, that comes with that, that's necessary to convince premium buyers to put down premium money.
I'll follow up on that question.
Go ahead.
So, having driven NIOs, what is in your opinion, the areas of improvement that you think might help with sales? Because a lot of people are concerned about falling deliveries. We're seeing a lot of other auto companies see their deliveries rise and rise and rise, whereas NIO's deliveries seem to have peaked in July and have gone downhill since. So, what do you think are some of the things in the car from a reviewer's perspective that could be changed, improved, or taken out?
So I can think of a couple specific examples. Overall, I think my reviews attest to this. I'm a big fan of NIO products. I do think there's a couple things they do that I'm a bit confused by, perhaps, and I think they don't necessarily jive with what customers want. One of the obvious examples is that when it comes to in-car entertainment, I think that the failure to have more screens, I empathize with the people in the comment sections of my videos that are like, oh, I just want a simple car. I'm so sorry. That's just not going to happen, and you can't be in a market in which every single one of your competitors has, multiple big giant screens in the front row. And I really like NIO's design, and I think it's very nice looking, but they don't have passenger screens. They don't have rear screens for the second row. And when all of your competitors do, you can point to the beautiful design language and the material quality and stuff, and they're both great. But tell someone's kids, okay, kids, get in the back of the ES8 or the ES7, and then get in the back of the Li Auto L8 or L9 and look at the big old screen that folds down, and you can do this and use your hand to control it and all these other things, and then ask the kids which one they want. And ultimately, it's not as though children are buying cars, but the comfort of the overall family in those segments is incredibly important. And so you can't resolve that with N-Box VR glasses. As cool as the concept is. Yeah, as cool as the concept is.
Have you tried the VR glasses? AR?
Yeah, it is AR. Thank you.
Yeah.
I honestly haven't. The cars that we get for review don't have them with them. And so the only way to try them usually is to be at a NIO press event. And I remember when I did the last NIO launch event that I did was the ES6 last year. And as I recall, they didn't have any on hand for us to try. But at least, as I understand it, they've at least resolved one issue, which is it was previously you were only able to use one pair of glasses at a time in the car, right? Like the ET7 when it launched. And now you can do multiple. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a step in the right direction, but the best direction to go would just be to throw some screens in it. I'm not gonna lie.
I actually, Neo lent me some of the in-real glasses to kind of like review and make a video on a while back, and I never really finished that. Not because like they're bad, but like it's not for me. Like I don't like AR, I don't like VR. I know Ting's in his Apple Vision Pro right now as we speak, but I really had a trouble like just with the product itself. I don't like AR or VR. Additionally, it's like so hard to film like what you're seeing. So like maybe someday I will show a video and talk about it, but I agree with you. I don't think it's the best solution for in-car entertainment. The screens are so much easier, especially for a family, than like fiddling around with glasses. So not a great idea, I think. But the tech's cool. The tech is cool.
It's undoubtedly impressive. I mean, it's very cool, and I think there is a world in which it could eventually become a really good option and something that could compel buyers to get cars. But as of now, it's just kind of a nifty thing to show on Neo Day.
Yeah.
Any other things apart from entertainment?
So we can talk about specific models and stuff. Overall, though, I think this is something that came up earlier, but I think one of the things that is really impeding their sales growth is going to be the price at this point. And I recognize the fact that I personally think that being able to do the BAAS and get a ET5 Touring for 200, I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, 258,000 RMB still, is a good deal. But when you're buying the battery and everything, it's still too much, unfortunately. And what that says is not that it's a bad product. It just speaks to how wildly, unbelievably competitive the Chinese car market is at this very point. It's just hard for people to get their hands around, honestly, or their mind around.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. And also, we're seeing the EREV craze. Everybody's buying EREVs. It's just insane. What's your opinion on that? Do you think that's gonna like last on forever, or like is that only like a temporary thing? Maybe like a year or two later, it's gonna phase out, or what's your thoughts on that? Because that's taking off.
100%. I mean, we've got multiple brands that are built mostly around EREV. Obviously, Li Auto is built almost entirely until the Mega comes out. I'll be driving that on Monday. And then the L6 was their next SUV. That one's also full electric. But and then Ito, who's been having a pretty great time of the last few months. We'll see how long that lasts. I personally am a fan of EREVs. I feel as though, while I'm, again, sympathetic to the argument that they are double the complication of simply having either a ICE powertrain or an electric powertrain, I hear people sit when they say that. I also feel as though if you're looking at it from the perspective of let's increase adoption of vehicles that are more efficient, if used properly, then I think that ERVs are a very good example of how we can do that, because they do resolve a great deal of the concerns, obviously, that people have with pure electric vehicles, charging infrastructure, range anxiety. Whether those concerns are well-founded based on the ranges that EVs are able to achieve and the charging infrastructure. Speaking in China especially, there's questions as to whether you need to worry about it. In Europe and the United States, it's still a major concern. I think that if it gets more butts into more seats of vehicles that are going to be much more efficient, then I'm in favor of it. As for how long the trend will last, I think that here in China, as the incentives for buying pure electric vehicles are kind of rolled back slowly, I do think that will be an increasing adoption of EREVs. I can think of a very specific example, and this is something we can discuss a little bit later, but we over at Wheelsboy, one of the things we're working on now is doing vehicle export, and having spoken to parties in various countries. As an example, in Israel, they currently have tax incentives or import tax incentives for pure electric vehicles to come into the country. So essentially, it's cheaper to import pure EVs than it is any other kind of car, hybrids, ICE. The people that I spoke to, they basically said, we're going to bring in pure EVs until they end that. And then we recognize the fact that a lot more buyers are going to be interested in PHEVs, EREVs, because of their more practical applications that they have. And then we'll just start to kind of switch to those or importing those as well. And I think that that's going to be a trend that will happen in China. It will happen in the United States. This may be this year. This might be the year of the PHEV and the EREV. With one caveat, and I promise I'm almost done talking, is the problem with those cars is that they're a little bit more difficult of a story to tell to people, because people have a very easy idea of way of conceptualizing. This is pure electric. I plug it in and it goes. Or this is a Toyota hybrid, like a Prius. But to say to them, it's an extended range EV. It's got a motor. What's the motor do? It makes electricity. That's it? Yes. Do you have to charge it? Well, you can if you want to. Do I have to put gas in it? Not if you charge it, And so it's just a little bit harder. It's a little bit more complex. It takes a couple more steps to convey it to people, the concept. But honestly, once you do, I think a lot of people really like it.
So I have a add-on question. So NIO CEO was asked whether or not NIO would actually do EREVs to boost sales. And he said his counter argument was, by placing generators inside every single NIO, the price would be, like, the cost would be enough to build like a ton more swap stations. So do you see battery swap as potentially like a competitor to EREV? Where do you measure these two things? Like, what's your opinion on that?
So that's an interesting question. I personally am in favor of the battery swap concept. I definitely see the applications. I think NIO's done a very good job of proving that concept, enough so that obviously multiple companies have chosen to invest in it and to go in on them with it, get on it with them rather. In terms of it being I do think I would say this much. What battery swapping does is it brings the calculation for a buyer who's saying, okay, I like the concept of an EREV. I like the EV, but I'm worried about the charging. The battery swapping kind of maybe makes it so you could compare these two cars or two options based on more than just their powertrain. It essentially brings more buyers into a range in which they would consider purchasing the car. As a long-term solution, the two things, I think battery swapping, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't tell you in 2030 what battery technologies is going to be like and whether we're going to see such a proliferation of solid state or semi-solid state batteries that you won't even have to worry about range in any reasonable way. If that's the case, both EREVs and battery swapping may be in trouble. But I will just say that I do think that, let's just say battery swapping complicates the calculation for buyers a little bit.
Do you think, Ethan, do you think that the story, like you said, the story of an EREV is more difficult to sell to a consumer? What about the story of battery swapping? Like, a lot of people don't really understand that still. Do you think that's also a major issue?
I think for sure. I mean, listen, the marketing of anything is always a major, going to be a major, it can be a major hang up, it can be a major boon, or it can be the bane of the existence of people. Now, I think that in terms of a story to tell, the battery swapping one is a lot cleaner. I think that, it's one of those things where we're in a society, well, I'm old enough to remember when you didn't have batteries that were just built into the thing and you charged it. You had to change the batteries all the time. And so I think people can understand that concept more easily. And then it's really a matter of seeing a video in which a NIO owner drives up, and nowadays the car backs itself in, swaps the battery in 3 minutes, and then you drive out. I don't, that's a pretty simple thing to do. The hard part is the infrastructure of it and making sure that you actually have a power swapping station to go to.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. Appreciate it. Somebody's shaking something.
Oh, it's not me.
Yeah, what do you think about some of the variant of the ES8 that is now no longer there, right? I know that ES8 was like one of the interesting model that you can go for 6 or 7 seats, but now I think they only got 6 seats. Is that right? Only 6 available.
Only 6-seater.
Yeah, so there's no 7 seats available now.
Even if a taxi company wants to order 107-seat ES8s, NIO won't do it.
I bet they'll find a way.
You would think they would.
I mean, if it's got to do with homologation or something like that, but if they were already selling it, I don't know. I just wanted to say hello, Heatwave. Heatwave was in the comment section saying hello to me. So there you go.
There you go.
So that's very interesting, actually. I have a question for you guys. What do you think about this commenter seems to see the NIOs being used as taxis as it seems as a positive thing. If I'm a premium brand, and make sure I don't misunderstand his question, but if I'm a premium brand, I don't know that I want my vehicle to be known as the high-end Uber that picks you up from the airport. You know what I mean?
I mean, when I'm in Europe, I see Mercedes taxis all the time, right? So I don't think that's really a problem.
It's like a limo, a limo service. So
I will say that's Mercedes. Mercedes has had 140 years to establish themselves as more than just a taxi, and it's impressive. Yeah, it's impressive that they can do that because it's right. It's a well-known fact that you can go to parts of Northern Africa and everything, and there's these old Mercedes that are still being used as very reliable taxis and transportation. I think so. There's an update on that question, which I'd like to see there, but so it's a very good and interesting needle to thread. BMWs are police cars in the UK and stuff like that. I mean, but I think if you're a premium brand, a very new premium brand from China, you're in a much more fragile position than someone like a Mercedes-Benz. I think we can agree. Yeah. And while I don't personally, I don't think that being used as a high-end taxi would make it not eligible to be considered as a premium purchase for a buyer. I can see how it would be a calculation. But to contradict myself, just having it as a way for people to get experiences in NIOs, it could be really useful for that.
Definitely.
Because they said that, wow, they signed the agreement in Oslo, 10,000.
But that's not 10,000 NIOs. That's their that's their taxi fleet.
Right.
So it could be some fraction of that 10,000, right?
If it's a few hundred, fantastic. I mean, great for NIO for sales, and I think I will say that when you're introducing premium brands to new markets, something that I've learned doing the export thing and speaking with people that are trying to do that with various Chinese brands, there are ways in which you can strategically place your vehicles to make sure that the right people are getting to touch them and to try them out. And so that means things like working with high-end hotels to make sure that you're being used as your car is being used as the shuttle service between the airport and the hotel, and that kind of thing, so that you are getting in contact with, quote, the right buyer, and also maintaining a sheen of premiumness and elegance or whatever.
Yeah, we're actually seeing NIO do that a lot here in China as expo cars and that kind of stuff, delegation cars. Yeah.
How many times have you guys seen some van, MPV or something? I think it's usually from Maxis or something that has the sticker on the back that says like official vehicle of APEC. Am I the
I
only
don't think
one
I've
that
seen
sees
that
that
one. I don't
all
think I've
the?
seen
I'm
that
sorry,
one.
all the time. Oh, well, Will is in the chat. China Driven is in the chat.
Yeah, Will's here. What's up, Will?
I
um,
know.
I want
I know
to.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Please.
I was just gonna say that just like a silly anecdote, but the first time I was ever in a Tesla was a Model S when I was at the Cannes Film Festival. It was the official car of Cannes when I was doing my stupid job I used to have. But
When you won, did you win?
no, I attended. but
Hey, better than me.
yeah, it's the official car of Cannes. And that was just first time in a Model S, first time in an electric car, and I mean, it was it kind of turned me on to the idea of electric cars. Really, that was like 7 years ago, 6-7 years ago. Yeah,
That's a
so
great
I think
example.
I think it's a good idea to have taxi or official car of APAC or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think you're
True.
right. I think that a lot of Chinese brands would kill to be the official, shuttle vehicle for Cannes.
Yeah.
I got one question from the fan for you, Ethan. Thinking about your
Sure.
bio. Go ahead, man.
Well, really quickly. So I'm originally from North Carolina, which is where I did my undergraduate. And then for my master's degree, well, I started studying Chinese. This is to answer his second question as to why is China my home base. I started studying Chinese in university in my undergraduate, and then I came to China for the second semester and summer of my junior year to do an exchange program in which I basically studied Chinese for 4 months with a language pledge. If I got caught speaking English within that three times within those 4 months, I got kicked out of the program, and the very nice couple from New York City that had paid my way would be very disappointed at me. So luckily that didn't happen. And it really helped my Chinese level. So when I returned to the US, I finished my last year of undergraduate, and I then immediately went to Wuhan. Actually, I was in Wuhan University for 4 years for my master's degree, and I finished that. I graduated in 2018, and I came to Shanghai to work in PR and marketing. And while I was there, I connected with the team that I now work with, and we were lucky enough to get it going enough that in 2021 I went full time. April 11th, 2021, I will never forget when I quit my office job and got to drive cars for a living, which is what I'd always wanted to do. And then
Nice.
to answer their last question, I'm assuming they mean NIO staff at things like the NIO homes.
Like PR,
Or
Maybe PR or
maybe
someone. I'm not sure. So maybe Kay
how about
can
both? I'll
elaborate a
answer
bit.
both.
Yeah,
No,
both.
it's
Yeah,
okay. Just in case, I'll answer both. Don't worry.
yeah.
So starting with the Neo PR people that I've worked with are have been very nice. They're very professional. I try to, as someone who did work in PR for a bit, I try to be patient and understanding with PR people. I understand they have a lot of things to balance. That it's not as easy as I wish it was, where they could just throw me the keys to whatever car I asked for whenever. As Will says there, yes, all PR people are lovely. Yeah. And some of the neo PR people who have then gone on to join me on this side, like Sean over at Telescope on YouTube. I met him actually at the Neo EP9 test drive event. And then, he would eventually join me on the media side. As far as Neo home staff, I'd love to hear you guys talk about this as well. Uh, there. Okay, so it was correct. It wasn't about the Neo home staff. He's clarified there. They have clarified. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for PR. That's what he meant. Yeah.
I think maybe they're
So
Neo PR.
I can step in real quick. My experience is much less than yours. I'm sure probably any of you guys. But I've worked with a couple of car brands here in China, like Xpeng and Li Auto and NIO, and all of them are very professional and everything. But I would say from my experience, NIO is like the most like hands-on. Like when I took this ET5 behind me touring out to Yunnan, they like came out there, flew out there to meet me, and very very hands-on, very very proactive. Whereas like when I get a car from Li Auto, they're like, just take it, have fun, and make whatever you want. So is that similar to what you've experienced?
Sure. I think that's true. I think that different brands have different. I will say this much: when there's a big project like taking the car out to Yunnan, like when Will did for China Driven, did a similar thing with the Neo Power Journeys. I expect them to be a lot more hands-on to make sure that anything that what does that mean, Will? The
What's that?
um,
Come on, man. What's this?
I expect them to be more more hands-on because it's such a large, complex project, and there's so many things that could go wrong, and they want to make sure it goes smoothly. I'm usually just borrowing cars for a test drive for a week, and so they don't have to follow me the whole time. But speaking, oh, thank you, Will. Thank you for clarifying. He knows my answer, and I'm about to give it. Very good timing. Personally, my preferred thing is I like PR staff to be professional and polite as I am with them. I like them to work with me to find a time that works for both of us to give me the car, and then I want them to step back. I want them to give me the keys, give me the time I need, and it's my job to make the highest quality, most interesting, and hopefully honest review that I can about the vehicle. And then I return the car to them as they gave it to me, as is my responsibility. I think Will and I are on the same page when it comes to that. We don't like PR people riding in the back seat with us ever.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little bit. You can't say the most of it. You just need to try to be constructive on what you're saying. You know?
Yes. Well, you're lucky. You can just switch to Thai.
That's what I did.
But
So they don't know
there you go.
what the hell I was talking.
There you
And
go.
then this like, this is the last time we're gonna ask you to come here because you don't. We don't know what you're talking about. Like, you know, it's like,
Yes.
oh, come on, it's all nice thing. I never said the bad things. Come on.
Will is bringing up something there. I didn't have a flat tire. Oh no, that
No
was
battery?
yours. That was his experience. Will has a great story. You have to bring him on here sometime to talk about it, in which he got a Netta GT that had, as he described, like 5% battery or something ridiculous like that. Oh, maybe he told it already. And then a flat tire very soon after he left the dealership. I have luckily never had anything like that. I have gotten a couple cars that look like they had been lived in by raccoons. I mean, just dirt, just white interior, that it looked like somebody had been working in a coal mine and then had tried to touch every surface that they possibly could. So I've spent a good amount of my personal time at, the self-service washing stations cleaning cars. But it's no flat tire, I'll tell you that.
Maybe to test the run flat operations.
I don't think the one that he had run flats. I think it was.
Oh no!
It was regular ones.
Man.
Yeah. Pilot Sport EVs, probably.
Let me pull some of the back.
Okay.
They comment in a, like in which maybe I missed. This was when we were discussing the story about battery swaps. So Peter said that we could prove the proof of concept in battery swapping versus the Teslas. That didn't work that well. I mean, Tesla, they did try, right? They did try in California. When they had the Model S in early years, but hardly people there's no one went to do the swap. So
yeah, I mean, I think that this is something that NIO themselves, when speaking to people like Will and I, and I'm sure you, Eric and Ting and Mr. P, all of you, they really want to tell the story of the battery swapping stations. And it is they, I'm sure, see English language, especially at this point, media as essential in getting that across to the buyers in Europe who are looking at this with, a little askance, like what's this battery swapping thing? And it may sound a little bit unbelievable because there's not that many swapping stations yet, but you can show them, like, look at China. There's so many of them here, and it does work.
surprisingly, I spoke to some of the guys in Thailand, And when I say I did the battery swap, and then the response was, so how many days you need to wait until the battery is like changed? I said, what do you mean days? It's like 3 minutes, and it was like what? So I had to send a link to the dude and then say do subscribe.
And did
Oh
and did he
man,
did he subscribe?
I don't know, man.
Oh, you gotta check.
Because among all the new subscribers, I don't know which one is this guy, right? So
Oh, they just go
Ting's
so
just
fast, right?
bragging. Ting's
yeah,
got
not
exactly.
so
Ting's got
fast, but
so many new subscribers. He can't
no,
keep track.
I cannot
He's a
tell which
big
one is
guy.
this
Come on.
dude. So come on. Yeah.
Come
Anyway,
on.
it's like from how many days? Like, let's take it 3 minutes only, man. Come on.
That's very funny.
Oh, this is inbox thing. I did try a few times, but during the broad daylight, it could have some of the light leaking at the side, right? Because there's no light seal or something. So
It has like the Ray Charles kind of like cover thing, right? So you can put that over to make it
ah,
blacked out.
yeah, you could do that. That's in up front, right?
Yeah,
To
it's like
cover the
it's like
lens.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
So you can look
to like
extra cool.
prevent the light from the front. But then
Right.
on the side and all, when you in the right angle, when the sun just hit your cheek or something, then you find that reflection on the lens where it hit. So it's just like some occasion in the day you might get that. Yeah.
I personally didn't notice that, but I also only used it for like 15 minutes and mostly at night, and that was enough for me. I don't like it. So.
Yeah. It's too
Well,
niche of yeah.
I will say that there's one company has discovered the one type of in the one media or entertainment solution that's worse maybe than the N box or the whatever the N glasses is. That's Ito and their M9. And I just today had the chance to experience, and we'll be doing a review of this car eventually here, the 32-inch collapsing projector screen in the Ito M9 for the second row. And it is so deeply unusable in anything but pitch dark. In daylight, in a inside of the dealership, the experience center, the Huawei Experience Center, and then outside on a very, very cloudy day. I don't know if you guys any of you are based in Shanghai. I'm sorry, but Shanghai right now is super cloudy and rainy, and yet it still looked so washed out and not good. And also, it's 32 inches, and you were essentially as far away from it, excuse me, as I am. As you like, it would be like sitting less than a meter away from a 32-inch TV. Obviously, it's not a good experience. So, anyways, I digress. But I think we're getting. I'm over here. I'm so used to being. I think I don't think that's me, but maybe it's Mr. Vision Pro over there. But
no, man.
Don't you dare talk bad about the Vision Pro. It's got great audio.
I muted.
Thank you. So, there was. It's about an hour in. I have a bit of a hard out here because it's Friday and I refuse to work after 10:30 on Fridays. But I saw a comment in there that I really wanted to take a moment to answer. Well, two actually. Ting, I think you probably saw it. Will was asking, is there he's heard rumors that NIO is going to go to Thailand. Have you heard anything about that?
No, not NIO. I heard Sega is coming to Thailand, but not NIO yet. But Sega is on the way. Yeah.
That's interesting. I can see Zeker being with the X and the 001 and stuff finding a market there. And then there was one question that somebody wanted to ask me that I guess we can, if it's all right with you guys, we can wrap up on. Which is they were asking what's the best NIO that I've driven. For context, I've driven all of them. I've driven especially the new generation of vehicles. And I can say with firmness that the ES6 is my favorite. I think that the ES6 manages to has a great balance of size and driving dynamics and the interior material quality and all of it even at the current price point. If they drop the price, even better. But I really, really enjoyed my time with the ES6 when I drove it at the launch event in Beijing. It was just a generally enjoyable experience. So ES6, my favorite Neo, apart from the EP9, obviously.
And the ET9 next year probably.
That's a funny looking car, isn't it? Can we admit that it's kind of funny looking? That's
It
kind of
can
funny.
shake, man. It can dance, man. Come on.
Hey, that's cool. And
Yeah,
I'm not going to be. Yeah, please.
I mean, you don't find a car that can dance that often, right? So, I mean, this is the one.
I have to tell you. So my brother back in the States is a tech or mechanic for a shop that modifies and repairs BMWs. And so I remember him sending me a video from technical school in Florida in 2000 and probably 11 of a BMW 7 Series with air suspension doing the same thing, kind of. So it's one of the. It was definitely not doing that much movement that quickly. And I'm not going to be. Thank you, Will. Honda Cross Tour. It looks like a Honda Cross Tour, or the Toyota Crown, the Crown sedan that just came out in the U.S. But the I'm not going to be the guy who got excited about the Yangwang U9 jumping and dancing on stage and then not acknowledge that the ET9 shaking off the snow is a cool image. It is very cool. And as much as I don't necessarily love the way the overall shape of it and the proportions of it, I will tell you that I sure as heck hope that NIO invites me to drive one because I think it's going to be a really, really cool car.
I'm sure they will.
They will.
Yeah.
And please bring me up there too. So and Eric and Mr. P.
They'll invite us all.
As you, I'll put in a good word. I'll hide you. Yes, you guys. Well, I need people to ride in the car with me. Will's gonna have to go in the trunk, unfortunately.
He'll fit back there.
In the trunk.
You know that checking off the snow is like the dog get into the pool and then got up the pool and then check it off, right?
It's like anthropomorphic, right? It's endearing. It's kind of cute. I think they were really as far as it's definitely as far as marketing goes. I think it's a home run.
Yeah,
definitely.
I got one question though.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, Ethan, he has a hard out at 1 hour, and I don't want him to sit here and feel like he's waiting for us to finish.
Well, we will. Let's do this. I'm happy to answer this because I don't have a lot of information about this particular topic, and so I can't answer at length. But the question is about the new the upcoming sub brand. And I'm so embarrassed to be on a NIO podcast and to have absolutely blanked on. We know what the sub brand is going to be called. Am I mistaken?
Not yet.
Not yet. I feel like I'd heard a name.
Mr. P has a name. Onvo, right, Mr. P?
Well, unofficially, they've trademarked the name Onvo, ONVO, but maybe that's going to be the sub brand name. Maybe it won't be.
We're going to find out. In terms of what my expectations for the sub brand, I think that I'll tell you this. In terms of pushing volume for the NIO group, as it will, I guess you'll have to call it at that point because there's more than one brand. Obviously, it's going to be very helpful. I think NIO as a brand has enough brand cachet to maybe launch launch a new brand and have people pay attention to it. That's certainly media like myself will. The question is whether buyers will. And the price point for them, I mean, at this point, if they're not capping out their models at 300,000 or so RMB, then I think that they're missing the game. The 200 to 300,000 RMB price range is, again, very, very competitive. I could see them starting even cheaper, but probably not for their first model. I would guess their first model will be very firmly in the lower end of the 200 to 300,000 RMB, or just for context, I'm sure people that listen to this know this, but it's like 40 to 55,000 or something, $50,000+. Or sorry, 30 to 40-ish, 40 something thousand dollars rather. Eric also is doing the math, I can tell.
Thinking about it.
And so I'm very curious about it, and I'm also very curious to see how they integrate the battery swapping into a more affordable brand. That's going to be
True.
interesting. And then there's one question. This is the most important question we've gotten in the entire chat, and Mr. Peter Costner would like to know if I'm wearing a Seiko 5 bronze. I don't own any bronze watches. I want to own a bronze watch, and I will, but this is actually a Citizen ProMaster that I actually just got as a gift from a friend yesterday, and I absolutely love it.
Got a nice
My
friends.
watch box
Your
is right
friend's
here,
nice,
guys.
man.
Listen, whenever you want, I can grab the whole thing and I can just do the whole tour. All of a sudden, Eric and Mr. P just hang up.
I got one, which is the comment to your channel, something about cork technique. Or wait.
Like-
let me
like
let me
Doug
put it
DeMuro
on.
or something?
This is the one, yeah. Corks and features style.
They mean quirks and features.
Okay.
So just strange things, right? I think that is something that I have thought about for a long time. I know there's a great many people that watch our channel that would like us to do longer format videos, and I get that. They want to see me spend 25 minutes talking about the Xpeng X9 and get into all the details, and I would like to do that. Unfortunately, it's a practical matter, as these guys will understand when it comes to production. It takes us days to make an 8-minute video, and that doesn't include the time it takes me to write the script. And so for us to do the Doug DeMuro style quirks and features requires not just doesn't necessarily take more time for production in terms of filming, but it takes more time in terms of having time with the car to go through it and to research it and to understand it to a level that I can provide that kind of unique insight. So I appreciate that comment, and I will, in my future reviews, try and call out that sort of maybe interesting random thing that I notice in the car in future videos, and consider maybe doing some side content that's more like that.
Cool. That'd be great.
You should definitely go over your watch collection with the side content. That would be very
Yes.
interesting.
Watch Boys, right? We talked last
Watch
time, and you said
Boys.
Watch
Watch
Boy
Boys.
channel would. Come on, boys.
We wanted to commit it to the S. It's Watches Boy. And so I'm honestly on the yes, it's true. I honestly wanted to. Last year, I was this close to launching a watch channel in Chinese language channel for domestic platforms, but the reason I didn't do it was simply because I didn't have time. I just don't have time to do really solid content, because shooting watches is a completely different discipline than shooting cars. And so it would be a lot of work. And maybe one day, but again, it will almost certainly be in Chinese, unfortunately.
You got subtitles.
I'll let you do
Yeah.
this. Thank you,
Yeah,
Kyle.
yeah.
I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I'll do your subtitles for you, and you can put me on payroll.
Perfect.
I need a job.
Nice.
Hey, Ethan, can we just, before you go, ask you if you can come back on in a few weeks or maybe a month or two and talk about the business of YouTube and the business of exporting cars and things like that? Less NIO, more about your whole thing you got going on there?
Listen, if there's anything anybody's learned from this chat, it's that I love to talk, and I love to hear my own voice. So yes, the answer is I will be happy to make another appearance to discuss further topics.
That's good.
Another only?
Very,
Come on, a lot
very
more, man.
interesting.
You
to
can come
me
as many
about
times as you
exporting.
want. You can come as
Yeah.
many times as you want. Or
You're
maybe you don't
regular.
want, but we'll drag you in.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. I think that it's an interesting topic, and there's certain things that I've learned, and I think that doing this export business has made me, I believe, better at doing my other job, which is the car reviews. And so, well, there's certain interesting things I found interesting that I've learned. Not yet to Canada. Someone was asking if this is one of the things. I'll start with explaining why it is there are so many countries we do not export to.
How about save that for next time, man?
Yes, that's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's gonna be a long discussion. You know, the standards are different and all these things. So
right. So everybody, go make sure you subscribe to our channel here so that you don't miss Ethan next time he comes on the show.
please do.
I really feel like we should let you go because your hard limit's over, and my hard limit's over too.
Oh, come on.
It's all right.
Tired,
It's
man.
all right.
It's late.
I've had a great time, but we ended on a high note, which is me
There you
getting
go.
reinvited.
There you go. Thank you for that.
Thanks a lot, man. I
appreciate you
I
coming
know
on.
that. Yeah, I appreciate your joining our podcast, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be our last one because I'm gonna drag you in, man. Like this time, and a lot more times to come. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, Eric, maybe we can close out this session for today.
Yep. Thank you guys. Everybody have a good night, good week. Happy Chinese New Year.
Happy Chinese New Year. Happy belated Chinese New Year. And thanks
Happy
again,
Chinese
Ethan.
New Year.
Yeah.
Happy Chinese
Thank you
New
so
Year.
much,
Thanks for having
Ethan.
me. Thank you very
Good
much.
night, y'all. Thank you very
It's been
much.
great talking to you. You have a
Talk to you
cool
soon.
audience too.
Yeah. And with my cool
course.
persona, a little weird, scary persona.
You were terrifying.
I know that you got distracted,
Yeah,
man. I can see
why
in
is
your
it-
eyes, man.
Why is Eric?
Why is it on the top, like pointing down at your forehead? Is it
Because
the way you have?
okay. I pin my screen way up into the ceiling, so it's like the screen is looking at my forehead, right? And that's why my head is like a little bit. You see, the screen is looking at me, in the sense where I'm lying on the sofa and then I pin my screen up into the ceiling.
I will
So-
only come back if you promise to always use your persona every time we do this.
Definitely, man. For you, man.
What about
My person.
What about my fursona?
Oh, nice. Let's see where. Let's see how it goes.
Sure, man. Next time I'll be like in my persona since the live stream start. How's that?
Yes,
Perfect.
do that, and then Eric, you'll be coming as a fox.
Yes, that's true. More like a coyote, but
By
close
the
enough.
way, Will just got it. Yeah, man. I'm on my goggles, so I didn't know what was going on. Yeah.
You thought
All right.
Ting had
Okay.
gotten
All right. Have a good
Sorry,
night,
man.
everybody.
Okay. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining
Thanks,
our
Ethan.
podcast. Do
Bye,
subscribe and stay tuned for more. Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Good
Thank
conversation.
you.
I appreciate it.